You're watching Daytime Tea Time with Candace. Daytime
I
Tea
remember
Time.
these things.
Daytime Tea Time.
No way.
Only
I've seen your breasts and that's totally true.
Daytime Tea Time. It's time to pour this tea, stir this tea, and sip this tea. Let's get right into it. Hey guys, it's Candace. All right, you see that title, so you already know. We're about to talk about Jada Pinkett Smith, Will Smith, and the entire Smith family. All right, guys, so you know I've been following Jada Pinkett Smith's show, The Red Table Talk, which features Jada, her daughter Willow, and her mother Adrian. And this week was a very good episode. This week's Red Table Talk featured Jaden Smith as a special guest, and the topic of discussion was parenting. Willow and Jaden shared their experiences and their thoughts on the way that Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith chose to parent them. And Jada Pinkett also shared her thoughts on the way that her mother raised her. Y'all, it was a very good conversation, and if you missed it, don't worry, I'm gonna share some of the best moments from it. Okay, so Jada Pinkett's mother, Adrian, she opened the conversation talking about the difference between the way she raised Jada and the way that Jada chose to raise her children, Willow and Jaden. Will Smith and Jada gave their children a lot of choices in the way that they were raised, whereas Jada's mother was more of a because I said so mother.
I just want to talk a little bit about the difference between how your mom raised you and how I raised your mom. We didn't give kids a whole lot of choice. Am I right in that?
You're very right in that.
You know, I felt like you guys had too much say over your own lives. I'm serious. Listen. No. And if I told you something because I said so, I know you all, why I can't because I said so.
But it's
and your mom and dad had to really kind of break me out of that because she treated you like adults. And I just felt like, he's 8. He's going to tell me what time he's going to bed?
Yep.
It was their idea of parenting was so different from what I was used to. I was like, these people are crazy.
That is so. I remember hearing
You in
say
the
that.
world, Gam. You in the world.
Okay, so me personally, as a parent of 3 girls, I have to say I relate more with Jada Pinkett's point of view. I definitely like to explain things to my daughters, rather than saying, because I said so. And that comes from my own childhood. That's just something I just did not like. I couldn't stand that. Not just from my parents, but from my aunties or my uncles or teachers or just any adult. They always would just say, because I said so. And I couldn't stand that. So that's one thing I actually try not to do to my own kids. If I tell my children to do something, I like to explain why. I try my best to have a dialogue with certain things because I feel like that keeps the line of communication open. Basically, I just feel like when parents always say, because I said so, it ultimately builds up a wall that's hard to break down when you actually need to discuss big conversations with your kids. They're so used to hearing because I said so, and then they don't end up talking to you about things. Okay, so for example, with my 4-year-old daughter, if I tell her to go to bed and she says, why? But it's light outside. I don't just say because I said so. I explain to her, okay, it's light outside because it's summertime, but baby, it's still 8 p.m. and it's time to go to bed. So once I explain that to her one time, she really doesn't ask me again. Now she knows why she gotta go to bed and it's still light outside. But that whole because I said so, ooh, that irks my soul. Okay, let me go on because now I'm venting. Okay, so basically a simple explanation goes a long way with children. And Jada realizes that that's the way she parented her children, but when they're at grandma's house, it may not be that way. So a healthy balance of the best of both worlds is also good for the kids.
Well, I remember always being like, "Oh, once Gammy comes, it's gonna be a different story."
Yeah.
I was like, once Gammy comes, woo, I'm gonna have to be like.
But I think having both worlds was good.
It was great
A
because it
good
was
balance.
old school and super new school.
It worked.
We alive.
More than that.
So far, so good. But like I said, they got that therapy fund.
Exactly.
Okay, so the thought process of Jada and Will giving their children so many choices was because she wanted to prepare them as soon as possible to have as much power over their lives as they could.
I don't want to make decisions for you. I want to prepare you as quick as possible and start to give you as much power over your life as quickly as I can.
Right. True.
Jada Pinkett's mother goes further explaining that she felt a sense of ownership over Jada.
I think, too, that I had a sense of ownership over your mom that she doesn't have over you
I don't
guys.
own
Like
them.
she belonged to me.
Yeah, nah. They
You
don't
know what
belong
I mean?
to me.
So
But I feel like that was
decide
kind of-
what
Yeah,
you
no.
know, and that's not.
And y'all, Willow Smith, I love her. She definitely made a good point that when you do that to your kids, basically smother them and tell them they can't do certain things because they're young and they're going to make a bad choice, you're not allowing them to experience life. And then they end up lacking independence.
But I feel like
They
a
have
lot
to
of
belong to
mothers,
themselves.
a lot of mothers that, because of that anxiety of, no, you're my baby. I know what's best. You're gonna make the wrong decisions because you're immature. You're a child.
Right.
That feeling just like encompasses their child, and then their child just becomes not able to make their own decisions. You know what I'm saying?
I'm sorry to say, but that's the reason we have a lot of 25, 30, 35-year-olds making 15-year-old mistakes. You have to allow your children to make their own mistakes while they're children. Allow them to make mistakes when they're children so that when they become adults, they don't end up making childish mistakes.
But you have to go out into the real world to really experience that, and you're like, oh, okay, so
Exactly.
now I'm a target.
And that's really hard too. You have to be aware of that as well, you know?
And then it's like, okay, cool, this is why my parents have been protecting me from. This is why I can't go and do this, or this is why I never was allowed to do this when I was young.
Okay, so that brings me to the next part. Jada actually talks about the time where she allowed Jaden to move out of the house at 15 years old. Now that part, I can't say that I would ever do.
One thing that I've learned, though, is that every child needs something different.
Yeah.
At 15 years old, Jaden, and I remember this day specifically. It was probably one of the most heartbreaking moments of my life. You got to a point where you told me straight up, you were like, Mom, I have to leave here to live my life.
Totally.
And I remember thinking to myself, as devastated as I was like, he's right.
Yeah.
The time is now. He's 15. It's time for him to leave the house.
And I would have never agreed with that.
Okay, y'all, 15 years old, that's super young in my opinion. I could never do that, I don't think. But at the same time, Jaden Smith was just different. He was mature for his age, and like Jada actually goes on to mention, he was a young actor making money on his own, and essentially he could care for himself. And clearly, the way they raised him, they weren't really worried about his decision making because they were open and honest with him and had a good dialogue.
I told Will when Jaden was smaller, I said we'd be lucky to keep him in the house till he's 16 because he was so mature. He was making films. He could really manage his
Own life.
own life. Like being in this lifestyle, in this world is a bubble.
Yeah.
And he wanted out. And
Yes.
I understood that.
Yeah,
Because I didn't have the bubble.
Right.
And
You
I
did
knew what having my freedom outside of the bubble, what I gained from that. And I knew that the sooner I let him go, the faster he was going to come back.
Y'all, that must have been very hard for Jada to do as a mother. Oh my gosh, I couldn't imagine. I could not imagine doing that. I definitely applaud her for knowing her child, for knowing his personality, and trusting that he would be okay. And it looks like it worked out very well for them.
It just makes you appreciate, being at home, being with your parents, spending quality time with family. You get out into the world and then you kind of understand things.
That's true.
Okay, so the Red Table Talk moves forward, and Jada's mother, Adrian, discusses her personal background and her own parents and actually reveals that she became addicted to drugs after giving birth to Jada.
I want to make sure people understand our background.
My father was a physician. He was an anesthesiologist, and my mother was a social worker. And we were very...
They were the quintessential black middle class.
Yeah.
Gammy had me at your age.
Number one, I was really young and clueless. Let's just be clear on that. I was 18 years old, and I was ill prepared for the responsibilities of parenting. And not only was I young, but I became addicted to drugs.
Right.
And, I was a functioning addict, but I was an addict just the same. So, I was consumed with working to support you, but also to support a habit.
Which is why I had so much freedom.
I could see that was a very touchy subject, Jada Pinkett's mother being addicted to drugs, because they really didn't go any further into that conversation. Jaden actually ended up speaking about how he and Willow didn't really have an understanding of what kind of world Will and Jada came from. So Jada decides to speak about her past and her past with dealing drugs and hustling on the streets.
You and Daddy never told us really what type of world you guys came from.
Yeah.
I meet random person on the street telling me, yeah, man, I worked with your dad back in these days, telling me some about my family that I never knew in my life.
I mean,
It's real.
yeah,
Yes.
That happens
I
to us all the time.
But you definitely have heard it.
but they didn't hear it from us.
Yeah.
I had to hustle. That's
Right.
what my life was about. Because there was a certain kind of lifestyle and way I wanted to live.
And she needed a mother to provide security. I couldn't afford it.
I never wanted to depend on a man to take care of me. So I was in the streets, selling drugs, doing all kinds of stuff.
I couldn't even imagine that.
Then in my own neighborhood, we were in the midst of a lot of violence that was just the norm. The fact that I had to live and die by my own hands prepared me to be out here in LA at 18 by myself and it be nothing. I was like, these jokers out here that they think is really doing something, really running game on somebody, you ain't running game on nobody.
Straight up.
Okay? I dealt with killers, homie. You produce what? That's cool. You asking me to do what?
Okay, y'all, Jada Pinkett's Low Down Dirty Shame side came out. Do y'all remember that movie?
Oh, so you want a box? Is that what it is? You want some of this? Hey, you know what? There ain't nothing to it but to do it. You know what I'm saying? All we gotta do is push this to the side. It's nothing but space and opportunity here. You know what I'm saying? Do you want some of this? Look, I don't have to deal with this shit. Well, then leave. There's a door. Leave. That's what I'm gonna do. Well, then get the fuck out.
I love me some Jada, okay? Now that's the side of Jada that I'm here for. Nah, but seriously, I definitely love the fact that she was genuinely transparent with her children and having conversations about her past. Okay, so Jada moves the conversation in a new direction, asking Willow Smith what does she feel Will and Jada had a hard time connecting to her with. Willow begins opening up about her disappointment with the way that her parents pushed her career after her success with her hit song, Whip My Hair. And she also explains that she cut all of her hair off after that, pretty much out of rebellion because she was not happy with the fame.
What is the part that you think Daddy and I have a difficult time connecting to you with?
I mean, I only have one like really terrible experience,
Which is,
which is with my hair.
your feeling about that was that you felt like you were put in the game too soon.
Just that the values of the people around me should have been the opposite.
You and Daddy.
Should have been, okay, we value her musical growth and knowledge more than her popularity.
Not so much about just a hit record.
Yeah, exactly.
I understand that, and I think all that came with it was too much. Let me tell you something. When we heard it, I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
It was Jay. Jay-Z was like, this is a hit record.
And he
I
was
looked
right.
at Jay and was like, really?
He was right.
This one?
Yeah.
He was right. But
was
also
right.
for us, that survival mentality, for your dad and I, we were like, oh man, she'll be set up for life.
Yeah.
This is her start.
With having that mind state of survival, and then you have a child, well, now it's somebody else's survival. What happens if we lose everything?
Yeah, because
What happens if we blow all of our money? What happens to our child? Make them a freaking workaholic soldier so that they can always take care of
survive
themselves.
and always survive.
Real talk.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you a question. The upset that came with that, did you shaving your head have anything to do
Oh,
with
it
it?
had everything to do with it.
So
It's so
explain
funny.
it.
There's a Nirvana lyric that says, I shave my head and then I'm not sad.
And all this time I thought you wanted to shave your head because my hair was short like that.
So what was the reason? Did you think it was going to make you happy? Did you think it was a symbol of freedom?
Was it rebellion?
Mm.
It was honestly all of that.
You had a hit single out and you were like, this sucks. I don't like this lifestyle.
Yeah.
And guess what? To
I'm
put
done.
a big middle finger up to everybody, including my parents, I'm freaking shaving my head because Kurt Cobain said so.
Yeah, but just because I'm done.
Yeah.
It's not what I want.
Okay, so as a parent, Jada basically felt like she was doing the right thing for her daughter. I mean, her daughter was super talented. She encouraged her talent and pushed her to be a superstar. But the way her child received that was completely different. And it's definitely not what Jada and Will intended. They intended for their child to be happy, to be successful, to be rich, and to be famous, singing and dancing, which is what she loved to do. But all of that pushing ultimately caused Willow to feel pressure and unhappiness because everything was about money and fame rather than her love for music.
You had your moment of rebellion.
I went through the same thing that Willow went through with my hair with Karate Kid. It was happening at the same time.
I remember being on set with Will, and it was such a struggle between he and I in regards to Jaden. And I understand why men take their sons away for like whatever kind of warrior training, because it is completely, utterly unfair and unnatural for a woman to have to sit and watch anything like that for her son.
Yeah.
And Will and I were in constant
I remember.
conflict. I mean, to the point that we were warring over Jaden. I remember the moment, because I asked you, you went down into that full split, and he was in tears. And I was like, I'm done. And he looked at me, he's like, Mom, I'm good. Damn. He got up and he said, let's do it again. Even in those battles that we've had over what's too much, what's too little, trying to find the balance in regards to parenting, I'll tell you one thing about the two of y'all. Y'all know how to work, y'all work hard, and y'all do it well.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of that.
Jada's next response brings tears to her eyes as she comes to an understanding that although she tried to fix all of her own personal childhood mistakes by making sure her kids didn't deal with that, her children still ultimately ended up having their own burdens to bear.
When I realized, even as a parent, and this goes back to you, Mom. This goes back to you, okay? I hate when I get emotional.
Oh, Mom.
No, because you know what? I think parents have to give themselves much more forgiveness. When you become a parent, you have these huge ideals, even for yourself, because we all are coming into parenting with our own childhood traumas. And you're hoping that you can fix all that through your own rearing of your children. And you can't. Your kids are going to have their burdens. And even though I see how it might have hurt you, it's what I knew.
Yeah.
Y'all, I love that ending. As a parent, that definitely spoke to me. Because although I had amazing parents, and y'all, I have amazing parents, and I had a great childhood, I still have my own personal issues with the way I was brought up. And I'm doing everything in my power to make sure my daughters don't feel the specific things that bothered me when I was a child. But like Jada Pinkett Smith said, your kids may not have your burdens, but they will have their own burdens to bear. And that's why it's very good to keep communication and honesty with your children, because whatever those burdens may be, at least you can discuss them and work through them, just like Jada did with her children during this Red Table Talk. All right, y'all, I'm done with this. I need to know what y'all think. What do y'all think about Will and Jada's parenting styles? And also, let me know about your own parenting styles if you're a parent. Are you a let's sit down and talk parent, or are you a because I said so parent? Let me know what you think. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and I'm gonna catch you in the next one, all right? Bye.